You ever wonder what your personality says about you and how you interact with your environment? Well, join me, Marissa, each week as we dive deep into the enneagrams and its 9 different personality types. So, let's get personal. Hi, I'm Marissa, and welcome to Let's Get Personal. So today, we're going to talk about type 4s. Type 4 is kind of the harder one for me because I don't really know anybody. That's good. I don't really know anyone personally who's a type 4. Slick's a type 4, so that might help you understand what. When I talk about things, you might be able to coordinate that, put it to somebody, be like, oh, I understand this, because that's slick. But I don't really know. None of my really close friends are type 4s, so it's kind of a harder one for me to understand or relate to somebody I personally know in real life. So type 4s are the individualist. They're sensitive, and they're the introspective type. They're very expressive. There can be dramatic at points. They're sometimes self-absorbed and temperamental. Their growth line is a 1, and their stress is a 2. So they're very close, but if they're trying to get better, if they're healthy, they would act more like 1s, or if they're under a lot of stress, they'd act like an unhealthy 2. So type 4s, they are also self-aware, they're sensitive, and they're reserved. They're also very emotionally honest, and they're very creative and personal. Another type for type 4s is, type 4s are the romantics. They're very expressive, and they tell you a lot. But they can be moody and self-conscious. They tend to withhold themselves from others due to feeling unvaluable or unable and defective. They can be disdainful and exempt from ordinary ways of living. So the biggest part about type 4s is they want to be individual. Type 4s don't want anyone to be like them, and they don't want to be replaceable. That's an issue with type 4s. They don't want anyone to be able to replace them or be the same as them. So they try to be different. And their main fear, their basic desire, is to find themselves in their significance, to create an identity. They like to be significant in the world or in a friend group. Specifically, you can talk about in a friend group or at a workplace. Type 4s like to put themselves different than everyone else. They want you to be like, oh, this person they're really creative, so we got to go to them for this because, that's what they're really good at, and they're different. Their basic fears that they will have no identity or personal significance. Same thing, really just like to be. They're a heart one, so there's the different types of the enneagram. There's 3 in each. There's 1 in, I think, head, heart, and body. I'm not really sure what the other one is, but for the heart ones, they're really led by their emotions, and type 4s are very also led by their emotions, but they're also really much in their head a lot of the time. They go off being different. So type 4 wing 3, we'll go into the wings in a little bit. Their key motivations for type 4s is they want to express themselves and their individuality, to create and surround themselves with beauty, to maintain certain moods and feelings, to withdraw to protect their self-image, and to take care of emotional needs before attending to anything else, and to attract a rescuer. Type 4s are the people who, if you want somebody to tell you, oh, you're type 4 is really people who can save. They're the artistics, the romantics. They also strive to be authentic. They want to be their most authentic selves. They also don't like to pretend to be people they're not. other types, we'll go with type 8 or 9 specifically. Type 9s tend to take themselves and hide traits that they don't think people would like about them, or a little bit of like change a little bit to have people to be like, oh, no one's gonna like this of me, I'm gonna change this trait about myself or pretend this thing so I can fit in. That's a very 9 thing. Type 4s really want to be authentic. They're like, if you don't like my authentic self, it's not worth it, because their whole goal in life is to find themselves. They feel incomplete if they don't know who they are. So that's really hard because you don't really find yourself until you're older. So type 4s grow up with that, like, I don't know who I am, and they have to know who they are. They want to find what's missing in their life. When type 4s find what they want to do, they really stick with it. And they know that's what they want to do, and they're not indecisive about it. They're like, yeah, this is what I want to do with my life. This is who I am. They're unapologetically themselves. They won't apologize for being themselves. So if something that the type 4 does and you don't like, they're not going to apologize for it. They're going to be like, well, that's just me. That's who I am. They have, out of all the types, they have the most emotional intelligence. They can read people very well. They're very emotionally intelligent to understand what everyone else is like feeling. They're the artists, they're musicians. They are the people who are the storytellers, the very creative people who sometimes can be in their own world, but they can put something out there that's very good. So people who like write music or produce music or create paintings, or those are a lot of type 4s because they know who they are and they want to be different. So type 4 very good at being a musician or being somebody who needs to be different to achieve something in like a field that they're going into. So like if you were a lawyer, you're not going to want to be, type 4s aren't really lawyers. They're not business people, because in business you don't always have to be different. You want to be kind of following the footsteps of somebody else or be kind of similar to somebody else to fit in, but also stand out, but you don't want to stand out a lot. Type 4s will be like, how is my art different, or how is my music different? What's going to make people want to listen to it or buy my art? And that's why type 4s are the artistic ones, because they can see what is me, what is authentic.
I think they dropped the hammer.
Oh, what are you doing up there?
They're hiding pictures.
Type 4s are authentically them, so they were like, okay, this is me and this is who I am. They're emotion driven. If something's wrong, you're going to know there's something's wrong. Type 4s are also, like I say, a little self-centered. Slick does this a lot when he took the test, and he would be like, I'm a type 4. Type 4s are the best. Type 4s also see themselves because they want to be individualists. So the fact that nobody else in the whole studio is a type 4, and Slick's a type 4, makes Slick I'm the only one. I'm an individual. Which is great stuff. Like, being individuals is very good because they can achieve a lot in their lives, pretty much. They're very sensitive. Type 4s will take stuff very personally because they put their whole heart and soul into everything they do. So if you're gonna like offend a type 4 and like their art, be like, oh, it's not that good, they will take it personally. I mean, critique, because nobody can, I don't remember the word, nobody can get better. That's not the word I was trying to use, but nobody can get better or progress without critique. But like, they'll take it personally. They take things at very swing. They can they usually can overcome a lot. They are very happy people, and so if stuff bad will happen in their lives, like they can overcome it and like continue. I was talking to my friend, and we're talking about type 4s and his friend's mom. So somebody, long connection. Anyway, is a type 4, and her husband died by a heart attack, like in his sleep, and she, witnessed it, and she's still one of like the happiest like people out, like very, energetic, very happy. So type 4s will they can bottle up their emotions at times, but they can overcome it. So they can be like, okay, this happened, but this isn't going to affect me, like make me a sad person or make me feel upset. So I'm going to overcome this and continue on with my life and live it the way I want to live it. That's that's type 4. Usually type 4s have been through a lot. They, artists usually use their artists. They get their stuff based off of what they've been through. So a lot of singers will sing based off they'll write songs based off what they've been through, or artists will paint based off what they've been through in their life. So type 4s tend to go through a lot of hardships in their lives, but it helps them in their thing. They are very passionate about the ones they love. They will defend. They can be a little bit selfish at times. So type 4s can be a little bit selfish at times. They have the fear of missing it out. They don't like people to be like, oh, this is what happened like this day, or like say everyone's hanging out and the type 4 can't make it. They don't like that, because then everyone's going to talk about it and they're going to feel left out. So they really like to be the center, not center of attention. That's a type 7 thing. Type 7s are the people who are like the center of attention, but type 4s like to just know what's happening, and then make their own mark in that situation so that they can be remembered. Not that they want to be the center of attention, but they're like, oh yeah, remember when you did this, or like, because they want to be individualists, very, themselves. And they can be a little selfish at times though, because they can think about, how is this going to help me? That's a very, thing. And now think about it, like, type 4s are sometimes the kind of people who would go out in the middle of a pandemic. I'm not trying to call out any type 4s. Not all type 4s are like this. But some type 4s are those people who would say, okay, I just don't want to feel left out. I'm like, only young ones. Let's go out. And I'm like, we're still in the pandemic. We're still in a panini, guys. Let's not do that. But not all type 4s like that. But they're the people because they don't want to feel like left out or something. So sometimes a little selfish, but they are very passionate about the ones they love. A type 4 will defend you even if it hurts them, which is something not you wouldn't think a type 4 would do, but even if it's like if it affects them, they will defend you. They'll be like, oh, my dance teacher, I do ballroom at FAU. So that's a fun fact about me, as I do ballroom club at FAU. We're still thriving because we're not only ballroom, we're a group of friends, which a lot of clubs this year have died. They really don't exist anymore. They're having fun. A lot of clubs at FAU really don't exist anymore because they haven't been able to do meetings or anything in COVID. But ballroom of FAU, if you ever want to do ballroom, we're still thriving. I can get you the information. And we usually do a performance, which we haven't been able to do for 2 years and makes me really kind of sad. We usually do this Dance As We Dance performance at the end of the year, which is the dance minors, because we only have dance minors at FAU, and then we perform also, and it's the whole showcase. We didn't get to do it last year because, a pandemic. We don't get to do it this year because a pandemic. But that defeats the purpose. Anyway, my ballroom dance teacher, he's kind of an older man. He's an older man. But sometimes he'll yell at you. If you ever took dance classes, sometimes your dance teachers, they get mad at you and they yell at you. and then you're like, ugh, and you feel stressed. But he will defend you. Because it was one of the performances, I think it was my freshman year. It was my freshman year because that's the only one I did a real performance. Where we were doing dishes, and apparently somebody near him said, oh, their steps are off, or their footings are off. And he got very defensive of us. He was like, no, they're trying their best. Like, they're not professionals. Like, cut them some slack. Like, they're doing great. Which is something very good about type 4s, is they will defend you. They are really great friends. They are honestly some of the greatest friends you'll have, which I want to make more type 4 friends. Because they also thrive. Type 4s, like to pull your own individuality out of you. They like that. Type 4s can be considered, they're not like the party people, they're like the wallflowers. They like to go to like parties and stuff, but they don't necessarily give off the vibes, like they don't need everyone to pay attention to them. They just like being in the atmosphere. But a negative thing about type 4s, if you're really unhealthy type 4s, they can become secluded from society. They can tend to go in on themselves and take themselves away and kind of lock themselves up in their like houses because they don't really know who they are, and the type 4s can become depressed kind of easily because they feel like they don't have a purpose. And that's a big thing, is if they don't feel like they have a purpose in life, they kind of go into that like bad mental state, and they'll be like seclude themselves. So if you have any type 4 friends, check up on them once, like even if you don't talk to them, maybe check up with them once, like a month or maybe a week. Be like, hey, how you doing? For type 4. Yes, they maintain their identity by seeing themselves fundamentally different from others. They like to be the different people in the group. If somebody comes in, so say you have a group of friends, and I don't know, what's a group stereotype? I don't know, you're like the funny friend, or I'm the Disney friend in my friend group because I really like Disney and I know lots of random facts about Disney. But like, say I was type 4, which I'm not a type 4. If there was another Disney friend who came into my group of friends, personally, I would love it because then I can talk to somebody, because my friends get really annoyed when I talk about, because I'm like a Disney theater nerd, and my friends get like, I don't have anyone to talk to about it. They're just like, they humor me. And I was like, if somebody else comes in the group and they know Disney or theater, I will thrive, because then I can make friends with them. Like, we can just talk. But if I was a type 4 and somebody else came into the group who was also a Disney theater person, type 4s would get really offended. They're like, no, you can't be that person. Because I am that person. I want to be an individualistic, that's a word. I want to be individualistic. I want to be myself. Nobody else is like me. Or they would be like, no, we can't be in that. They can't be in the group. Or they can be like, oh yeah, they can be in the group, but to the other friends, you can't like them more than me. That kind of sounds toxic, but it's fine. It's just a type. It's not toxic. Don't worry. It's just what happens. I mean, they'll tend to get over it, be like, okay, I understand. But type 4s, they want to be them, like, very unique. They want nobody to be like them. They like to pick up stuff that nobody's like. And so I'll talk about one of my friends. I don't have any type 4 friends really close. I have a couple, but one of my good friends is a wing 4. She's a 3-wing 4. And something about she likes to pick up stuff that, a lot of people wouldn't pick up. So she's a K-pop person, very into K-pop, which is big in the United States. I mean, in the Western culture, K-pop's gotten a lot bigger, but like she's learning Korean. And that's not very common. It's like little things that can make them different than everyone else. Be like, oh, I like K-pop, but I'm also learning Korean, which is different, very individualistic. They want to feel like they are unlike all other human beings. Kind of already said that. Coincidentally, that no one can understand them or love them adequately. They feel like because they're so different, nobody can understand them because nobody else is like them. They're like, oh, no one's going to understand me. No one will love me the way I love myself. Yeah, they love themselves a lot because they go, no one will love me the way I love myself because nobody's exactly like me. They see themselves as uniquely talented or possessing special one-of-a-kind gifts. When they have something they're really into or really good at, they thrive on that. They thrive on compliments to their artwork. And they also like to kind of teach, no, that's a type 3 thing. Type 4s will teach you things about them. They're like, about what they like, but they're not gonna like teach you everything, because if they say like they are into music and they tell you everything that they knew about like music, then you wouldn't need them anymore. Then they wouldn't be the one, like the individualist, the one who knows all about this stuff. Then like that would make them upset, you know. So they were like, oh, let me keep this. They're adequately, okay. A big negative trait in type 4s is that they are adequately aware of and they focus on their personal differences and deficiencies. Type 4s tend to find something about themselves, like just pick something out about them that they don't like and then focus on it. And sometimes that's a very unhealthy trait and it will put them into a deeper hole. They'll be like, I don't like this about me, I don't like this about me, and then they'll go into a deeper hole. Very not good. Talk to somebody. If you ever get into this deep hole, talk to somebody about it, because people are here to help you, always. Therapy's not bad. Not saying you have to get therapy. But I am a firm believer in the fact that in the way that the media portrays therapy and that that we're portraying therapy, people think it's a bad thing to go to. I've gone to therapy. We all go through stuff. Thank you. So, you know, that's not bad. Let's see. Let's talk about people. Okay, so type 4s, a lot of the artists. Billie Eilish is a type 4. Johnny Depp is a type 4. Those are the only two celebrities that I wrote down that are type 4s. But a lot of like musicians or actors, they'll be type 4s. Rapunzel from Tangled, she's a type 4, and Luna Lovegood is a type 4. Specifically, Scarlet Witch is a type 4. So Wanda, in the Marvel Universe, I've been kind of, correlating everything to somebody in the MCU, so Wanda's a type 4. Her biggest passion is finding who she is. She spends all these movies in the show figuring out who she is. And that's the type 4, they want to know who they are, find out like what's going on. So Wanda the whole time's like, where did I get my powers from? I don't really understand this. I don't know who I am. And she's also willing to take the biggest sacrifice. So type 4s will take the biggest sacrifice. They're the kind of people who will be like, okay, I'm willing to do this for you. Ride or die till the end. Greatest friends. They will take something, a big sacrifice, even though they know it will affect them. And they'll do what's necessary. They'll be like, yes. This isn't a WandaVision, but it's a little bit of a WandaVision. Not a spoiler, but like, if you've seen the trailers, you'll know. WandaVision was a very unhealthy type 4, where she secluded herself from everyone else. In WandaVision, she, went to Westview, put the hex. I'm trying not to spoil anything in case everybody's watched it. Put the hex and, was living there with Vision and isn't letting anybody in or out. And that's a very unhealthy type 4 thing, is secluding themselves in their brains and, being like, how can I make this all better? How can this be perfect for me? She created, this whole world is based off of sitcoms that, WandaVision is based off of. And so it's like, oh yeah, how can I do this? And the biggest situation also is Wanda made herself the main character. Yes, it might have been created by her, but she made herself and her family the main basis of the story, like the sitcom reality, which a type 4 very much is like, I'm gonna be the main. Type 4s are main character personalities. That's the best way to describe them. They are main character personalities. A lot of type 4s are what they write movies off of because they have that and they can do that character arc and stuff. So Scarlet Witch, Wanda, she's a type 4. Type 4 is a very good job. So be like actors, artists, writers, designers, something very in the artsy field. Yeah, when they're stressed, they tend to withdraw from social life and they can feel misunderstood. Like nobody understands them because they're so unique that there's nobody who can understand exactly what they're going through because nobody else has gone through this. It's also hard for them to let go of things. So if something goes wrong, they'll think about it in their brain a lot. So they're the kind of people who, if they said something wrong like years ago and you already forgot about it, they'll remember it and they'll think about it over and over again, being like, why did I do that? They're sensitive. They can also easily be overwhelmed. Type 4 to the people who will, if a lot's on their plate, they'll be like, oh, that's a lot going on. They also embrace grief rather than repress or feel conflicted over it. So they'll be like, oh yeah, this is sad, I'll embrace the grief instead of being like, ponder about it. Be like, something's wrong. Or they'll be like, let's fix it. Oh yes, fun fact. So they often pursue some sort of creative outlet, such as music, comedy, animation. You'll often find people who like do that, type 4s. But they also are really into thrift stores and flea markets because type 4s like thrift stores and flea markets because they're different. They can find pieces and stuff that nobody else has or something that's vintage stuff. Very type 4, vintage. So how are we doing on time? Okay, move on. But yeah, that's thrift stores, type 4s. I guess a little brief recap. We were do now. Type 4s, the artists, the people the romantics, very into finding themselves, want to know who they are, kind of things. Sometimes can seclude themselves from the world, but very, very ride or die friends, the people who will put you first. But yeah, so that's type 4s. Join us next week when we talk about type 5s. Type 5s are fun also. Yes. So yeah, we'll talk about type 5s and we'll see you next week.
Do you ever wonder what your personality says about you and how you interact with your environment? Well, join me, Marissa, each week as we dive deep into the enneagrams and its 9 different personality types. So, let's get personal.